Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to the channel where today I am going to be reviewing the Dragonbone Chair, which is book one in the Memory, Sorrow and Thorn book series by American author Tad Williams. Dragonbone Chair was the second published novel by Tad Williams after his Tail Chasers Song novel. The book was originally published in 1988, and I mention the date because I think it's important for something that I want to mention later on in the video. So what we have here is the action that takes place in the continent of Ostend in the last days of King John Presbyter, who is sort of on his deathbed almost, and he sort of passes on his kingdom to his first son, Elias, over his younger brother, Joshua. Now, shortly after the death of King John, Joshua, younger brother Joshua, sort of disappears, and he is found in the dungeons of the castle by Simon, who is a young kitchen boy from whose perspective the story is mostly told. Now, Simon, not the main character, but the main person that we follow the action from, he is a kitchen boy apprenticed to the king's doctor, and with the help of the king's doctor, they rescue Prince Joshua. Joshua and Simon escape the castle, chased by sort of the evil priest who seems to have new King Elias under his spell, sort of thing, under his influence, and off we go to the races. Presumably there's some confrontation coming between the brothers. I'm not spoiling a lot of the plot. That's not all that happens in the book. I'm just giving you like an intro to the story. Now, clocking at over 900 pages, I found that the writing is rich in detail, but the action is a little bit slow in the first half of the book. Then once Simon escapes from the castle, the pace of the story picks up, and I just say it almost picks up too much, because I wish we had had a bit more time in the events in the last quarter of the book, where a lot happens and it almost feels a little bit rushed over. So I think maybe there was a better balance to be struck in the pacing of the book as a whole. Now, the setting, where the action takes place, like I said, is the continent of Ostend, where the king is he rules over different human nations with heavy it's a heavily European-based setting, to the point where the names of peoples and places have got Gaelic and Nordic sort of sounding influences there. So you can very easily picture some sort of Northern European setting. There's also a fair amount of traditional fantasy, but it's very, very underplayed in my opinion. So we do have trolls, although they're not the sort of ogre, ugly beasts from Lord of the Rings. We have the city, however it's pronounced, Sithi, who are very much these elf-like creatures with some origin stories similar to the elves from Lord of the Rings. And there's dragons as well, but very underplayed. The dragons, you don't get this sense of doom and menace that you may get from other fantasy books, to the point where basically one person can kill a dragon by themselves. So I think there's like a proto-modern feel to the story. And by that I mean the whole multiple POV storytelling is not fully fleshed out here like you get later on in things like the First Law universe, or maybe the Wheel of Time, or Faithful and the Fallen, but there's snippets of that. Most of the story is told from Simon's perspective, but every now and then you don't get full chapters, but you get sections of chapters told from different characters' perspectives, and you can see how maybe George R. R. Martin took influence on that and took it to the next level in A Song of Ice and Fire. Also, the novel sort of plays a little bit more with the politics and the tension between the brothers in a world where we still got fantastical creatures and dragons, and it focuses more on the politics and the relationships rather than the fantastical heroic deed elements of traditional fantasy. So I think it is an important book / series to read. I intend to finish it because I think it sort of bridges the gap between the late 70s, early 80s, very fantasy heavy stuff to the more late 90s, early 2000s, more grounded, grimdark, if you like, fantasy. There is hints of there's some magic in the book, but there's not a hard magic system, and even the soft magic system, it feels sort of fairly spiritual. You don't have wizards casting fireballs or anything like that. There is something there, but it's not explored in detail in this book. Having said all of that sort of proto-modern fantasy, there's also still some well-trodden tropes. So the origins of Simon, I don't want to spoil too much, and I'm holding out for hope because in the intro to the book, I think the author says that avoid assumptions, basically, avoid assumptions. So maybe some things that are hinted at are going to be a twist on the classical trope. I don't know, still to be determined. And we also have the Dark Lord. There's a Dark Lord. So you see there's some contrasting elements between more classic, more modern fantasy. And finally, like I mentioned, the world building, this the easy thing to do of mentioning events from the past to give a sense of a rich history of the world, and sort of at a time when the city, these kind of elvish creatures were ruling the land, and then the humans arrived and they got displaced. So this sort of backdrop to the story, which I think is actually explored in a prequel novel that got published later. But there are also some Christian and Arthurian themes to the book. That's not to say that this is a Christian book or is heavy on the religion side of things, but the imagery throughout the book is very reminiscent of the Christian Catholic tradition. So, the Son of God that got hung on a tree rather than a cross, and elements like the fact that you have a God and the Son of the God and so on. Plus, without trying to give too much away, the Arthurian legend of, King Arthur being the only person capable of taking Excalibur out of the rock is sort of played out here as well. So perhaps the value of the series, having only read the first book, is not so much on its creativity or originality, because, like I said, so far a lot of the themes are familiar and well-trodden paths, but on the shift of focus within the series, away from the fantastical and on a sort of more grounded, realistic human interaction sort of things. So all in all, it was a little bit heavy going at the beginning, but for me it picked up later, and I enjoyed it a little bit more later. Although perhaps, and this is my own fault, I don't think maybe I paid enough attention to it, because at times I got a little bit confused as to the different factions and who was with whom. Perhaps not helped by the fact that those small sections of a different POV are not labeled, they're not self-contained in their own chapter, but sort of within sections of different chapters. Luckily, there's a very nice appendix at the back with the different countries and factions and who belongs to where. So that did help me to keep up with the book, because at times I had to reference who was doing what. It's not. I think it's mostly my own fault. It's not the fault of the book. But anyway, I think this is all I have for today. This is my as spoiler-free as I could make a review of the Dragonbone Chair, and hopefully I'll be picking up book 2, which is the Stone of Farewell. Maybe I'm thinking probably around May time. I think that's the schedule that I'm going with. So anyway, as usual, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe if you haven't done so, but mostly leave me your comments, your thoughts below. Have you read the book? Have you read the series? Does it get better? Does it get worse? Have I got it right? Have I got it wrong? Whatever your thoughts are, please share them with me in the comment section below. As usual, take loads and lots of care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.